I'm so glad you've joined us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. Our web address, clark.com. When you have a question, clark.com/ask. Coming up in 20 minutes in today's Clarkrageous Moment, there's something that you now have available, about a 50-50 chance you have available in your 401k plan. You should not do. It's totally Clarkrageous. I'm going to fill you in just 20 minutes. And a half hour from now, there's a savings vehicle that I was so excited about going back decades that I've got an update for you about U.S. savings bonds and where they fit in your life. That's coming up in just 30 minutes. I was doing in my TV work a story recently in Dollar Tree, among other stores. And in Dollar Tree, one of the things I showed and waved at the camera was the $1 steak. Dollar Tree is getting a lot of publicity, and a lot of times you'll see the sign outside the store that they're selling $1 steak. So I go to the freezer case, and it's not a joke. They actually do have $1 steaks. They're tiny. They're like 4-ounce steaks, so a quarter of a pound. And the thing is good as a weapon. Since it's frozen, you can hit somebody over the head with it. And I think we need to do a taste test here on the air, because I read a review of it where it was taste tested by various people in the restaurant business, and they weren't exactly ecstatic with the $1 review. One of the things I saw somebody quoted, I guess it was meat. It really is meat. And you have a certain built-in bias where if people know the source, they're going to automatically think, well, they're going to grade it down on a curve instead of up. So I think actually thinking this through, we need to do a blind taste test and ask people what they think of it. That's what we'll do. And then we'll share it with you on our Facebook page and at clark.com. And then I'll talk about it here on the air. The reason I wanted to mention the steak's an attention getter for Dollar Tree. But the thing is, shopping at Dollar Tree or any dollar store is a phenomenal way for you to save money. It's a great way for you to save money. You're not going to like every single product or product category in the stores. But, hey, I'm really into celebrating people's birthdays and special events. And so I go into the dollar store and I get the big Mylar balloons, the festive balloons, and obviously for $1. And I've been doing this for years and only just now found out from my wife that she actually doesn't like receiving those balloons. So it became a family tradition that she quietly smiled through. And now I know not to do it for her anymore. But I think everybody else in the family really likes getting the balloons. But the party supplies, the over-the-counter meds. How about AA and AAA alkaline batteries, a 4-pack for $1? That's 25 cents an alkaline battery. If you go to one of the major chain drugstores, you will pay 8 to 15 times that per battery for a AA or AAA alkaline. Aisle after aisle in a dollar store, you'll save real money. As to whether or not it's where you want to get your steak, well, stay tuned. Austin is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Austin. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on your show, Clark.
Certainly. You are how old, Austin?
I'm 24.
Austin, I am so ecstatic. I get like 3 words about somebody's question on the screen, and I am so ecstatic that at 24 years old, you want to ask me about?
Roth IRAs.
Yeah, you know why that gets me so excited?
Why is that, Clark?
Because most people really don't think about saving for the future till their 40th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And the advantage you have getting cooking on this at 24 is your money will grow and grow and grow, and the money works for you. Put away at 24, you get, compared to somebody who starts saving in their 40s, you may get 2 doublings of your money between now and when they start putting in their first dollar.
Oh man, yeah, that's what I'm going for.
So I'm just curious, what is it that motivated you at what's considered to be a very young age to save for your future? Where'd that motivation come from? Did it come from a parent or?
Well, yes, Clark, actually it did. I grew up in a household where my parents never really taught me about finances. So now that I look back at it, they sort of taught me what not to do.
Oh. I know a lot of people who say that, especially, it's interesting, especially people in their 20s who saw their parents go through severe difficulty financially last decade.
Yeah, and I've looked at that and just really realized that and from listening to your show, I just want to thank you for you doing your show because, the tools and the stuff that I've heard has helped me get credit. Just listening to your show and hearing people talk. And it's, well,
I'm glad that I've been
motivation, behind it.
I'm glad I've been of some level of service to you. And the motivation though comes from you. And so doing a Roth, make it as you get started with it. Have you opened one yet?
No, that was the question. I wanted to ask you, how do I start up a Roth IRA?
It is easy. When you hang up with me within 10 minutes, you can have opened your Roth and started funding it.
Wow. Okay.
So if you go to any of my favorite, what I call my favorite children, which I've got on my investment guide at clark.com, you can just click at any of those investment houses and do a Roth IRA application, link it to your checking account, pick what investment choice you want to put the money in, and start funding it, either by a monthly deposit or occasionally putting in like a lump sum of money. But we do better saving money if you put it on automatic, figure out what you can afford to put in each month, and put that amount into it each and every month moving forward.
Okay.
And my favorite starter for you when you think about starting an account
yes,
is to do what's known as a target retirement fund, where they based on your age, will put you into a mix of things that will be in the shorter term seeming riskier, but in the longer term get you more reward because you're 40 years away from retirement.
Okay.
And what you'd probably be looking at, I think the furthest out you can go right now may be a 2055 fund, the year 2055.
Okay.
So here's the thing. We're going to start the clock right now, Austin, and let's see if in 10 minutes you can have your Roth open and funded.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then report back because I want to see if my 10-minute challenge is a realistic one or not.
All right.
Okay.
I will.
All right. Best to you.
All right. Thank you, Clark.
Thanks. Muhesh is with us on the Clark Howard Show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Clark?
Great. How can I be of service to you?
Well, thanks for taking my call. Long-time listener, but actually long-time web reader, first-time caller. And my question is about life insurance.
Okay.
And I've done my research on your website, that whole life insurance is sort of a scam and you don't really need to get it.
Well, whole life, let me say that whole life is not a scam.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's just, it's not, for most people, whole life is not an efficient use of your money.
Fair enough. And so I was getting a term life for about 30 years, 25 or 30 years. And in reading up further and talking to one of the agents, I guess, who was trying to sell me a concept of underpaying the first X number of years and then flattening out towards the end. And the comparison between whole life, universal life, and whole life, and the fact that even if you do a flat payment, you're actually overpaying initially and then underpaying later. So I'm sort of confused on this whole concept of underpaying early and a flat later, which is pretty much the same thing as a whole life, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, you're freaking me out here. Let me tell you something. You used a term earlier, and then you used a term later that I am going to marry. In my book, any form of universal life insurance is just a big, fat scam. If it's not a scam, it is at least a big, fat ripoff. Mm-hmm. So any kind of thing they say, hocus pocus, you're going to pay this instead of that. And then after these many years, it's going to do this other thing and all that. And it's really wonderful. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Because so the truth is, with any investment product, and the whole garbage with the universal life is it was peddled as this brilliant tax-advantaged investment that has blown up on people over and over again. It is too dangerous. It's like playing with dynamite, but there's no good side to it. The only bad side is you don't know when the dynamite's going to explode. So I can't stand that stuff.
So here's my question to you. Maybe you can help me.
Okay.
When they are referring to, when an agent refers to underpaying the first X number of years, what are they referring to?
Well, usually what they're referring to, and I was not there for this conversation, so I can only go with what that historically has meant, is that the policy somehow will magically carry itself along based on underlying assumptions written into the policy. And that is the thing that has blown up on people, is that, by the way, that promise, if you look at the contract for the universal life insurance policy, that promise that the agent has said to you is nowhere in writing. And when you look at the actual contract for the policy, it will say what actually governs the policy and that oral representations do not count, or language to that effect. So here's you're talking about complete extremes. Because with level term insurance, let's say you buy 30 years of level term insurance. You know exactly what benefit you're buying for your survivors. You know exactly what you'll have to pay every month or every year for 30 years. With any type of universal or variable universal life policy, you have no idea how it's going to play out. You should never make an investment decision that you cannot in any way predict how that is going to play out and what you're going to have to pay. See, that's what makes it so much worse than you just buying shares of stock. Because when you buy a stock, you don't know, is that stock going to go up or down? But you already own it, right? With one of these weirdo supposed tax-advantaged insurance policies, you have an obligation. It is open-ended, and you have no idea what it's going to cost you, even though you're under contract to have to pay it, whatever that cost might be.
Right. See, I manage my own investments, and I didn't want one of this company or agent to take this money and use that as an investment with a promise to pay in the future. So I just wanted to basically buy what you said is a term life, and I wanted to run this by you because I couldn't get it on the web anywhere about this underpayment in the first few years, and I didn't know what that meant.
Well, I think that you said the most important thing. What was the last phrase you used? Last thing you said to me was, and I can't understand what it meant, right?
Yes.
Whenever you say that, as an investor, you'll appreciate this. Whenever you say that, you know that it's something you should not buy. The simplest rule of investing is if you can't explain it to a sixth grader, you should not be doing it yourself. There's a hot new trend in employer-sponsored retirement plans like 401ks that is a bad trend for you, a trend that is not your friend. It is the source of today's Clark-rageous moment.
Scams, ripoffs, outrages. It's a Clark-rageous moment.
A benefits consultant for big employers put out a study that found that we're at almost half of employers now that are offering you an option I've had callers ask me about, known as the brokerage window, that normally in a 401k plan or other retirement plan that you're offered by your employer, you will have a list of funds you can choose from. And you might have anywhere typically from 6 to 20 investment choices in the plan. Well, the hot trend is to give you an out from those things and at a much higher cost and administrative fees potentially, and much narrower choices in a 401k. By narrow, I mean you suddenly have thousands of things you can choose from, but they take you from making broad selections in a 401k, like a broad index fund where you own little pieces of a zillion different companies. You might buy an individual stock. I am not into that for money that you are putting aside for your retirement. The same reason I tell you, if your employer does something absolutely atrocious and offers their own company stock in a 401k, turn your back on it. Do not do it. Because the key to long-term financial security is being diversified, meaning spreading your money out, spreading out the risk. These brokerage windows inside 401ks are the opposite. You are putting yourself into a higher risk category, which is never a good idea for building long-term financial security at lower risk. Just say no to the brokerage window you're being offered by your employer. An interesting trend is that the more money people have in their 401k, the more likely they are to jump into the brokerage window. It's almost like they're bored that their accounts are growing. And that is the wrong instinct.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports this podcast. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. You see, Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. Hate searching through stacks of old files and paperwork? Well, with Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button. It helps you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. Even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/save. That's quickenloans.com/SAVE. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Thanks for joining us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less. And don't let anybody ever rip you off. On the web, we're at clark.com. You know you can get answers to your questions 9 hours each weekday. That's right. We provide free off-the-air advice where you get to talk. I know talking sounds so prior era, but you get to talk to someone who's a member of our team and get advice, information, answers to your questions. And at clark.com, you'll see how to call in. The hours that we're available these are Eastern times, 10 in the morning till 7 in the evening. And so that's a pretty wide swath of time for you to get free off-the-air advice. Speaking of prior era, there was once a time on the air that I very, very adamantly, strongly encouraged you to buy U.S. savings bonds. There was a window from the mid-'80s up to 2001 that savings bonds of various types were a great place to stash cash. Well, here's the thing. I've been on the air long enough that now people have savings bonds that are no longer earning interest. Because, see, they only earn for 30 years. And if you keep them longer, you're getting 0% on the money. You have to cash them in at that point after 30 years. But 30 years is such a long time. Most people who bought them, well, a lot of them actually may have passed away. And family members don't even know they exist. Or you yourself may have bought them decades ago, and you don't remember anymore. Hey, oh, that is right. I participated in that payroll savings plan at work or whatever. And so this money goes unclaimed, is basically a gift from you to the federal government. The other common situation is when a grandchild was born, not so much done today, but back in prior decades, when a grandchild would be born, a grandparent, as a birth gift, would buy a U.S. savings bond for the grandkid. And people don't even know these are out there. And that's terrible because particularly with the savings bonds purchased mid-'80s up to 01, there are a lot of them that have earned great returns, and the ones more recent in that cycle are earning a great return way beyond what anything else is available today for a saver. But it's a no return if you don't know it's there, forgot it was there, or have let it go past its earning period. At Clark.com, I have info for you to go on the treasure hunt to see if there are any savings bonds out there that are, in fact, unclaimed. And as always, the federal government has a form for you to search for what might be there for you. And it is a weird thing because I'm sure you may be thinking, people forgetting about money? People forgetting about an account they had? The way these savings bonds work is they're issued, and that's it. There's no account statements. There's no notification of any kind that comes at any time later into the future. And we're speaking now with Zach. Hi, Zach. How are you?
Hello. Very good. You?
Great. Thank you, Zach. How can I be of service to you?
Yes, I had a medical bill that I had let just sit there because I was trying to battle it. It was on top of an emergency cost I incurred. And they sent.
How's your health now? Are you okay?
Yes, I had an emergency appendectomy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
So they saved your life.
Yes.
That's good.
But they sent this bill to a collection agency, of course, and they put a negative note on my credit score. But instead of paying the collection agency, I just went ahead and paid the original creditor.
Did they accept the money?
The original creditor did.
Okay.
They sent a letter to the collection agency saying that the bill was paid, but the collection agency won't take it off of my credit report because they say I owe them interest.
Ooh. All right. Because you paid the original supplier for this bill, the original supplier has to pull that item back from collections on your behalf.
Right.
Now, is the original supplier willing to do that?
They already sent them a letter and everything.
Oh, they sent them a letter saying, this bill's been handled. You need them to go a step beyond, because the collection agency is actually a customer. I mean, the doctor's office or medical provider is a customer of that collection agency.
Right.
The collection agency, at its peril, does anything that would alienate the medical provider, because all the medical provider wanted was its money, and they accepted it from you. And as far as they're concerned, you are an account in good standing now.
Right.
So you need help from the medical provider to get the item withdrawn by the collection agency.
Okay, that's the original creditor?
The original creditor is the one, and remember, they are the boss of that collection agency. Now, one thing I would do is I would call the collection agency and say, I don't want to cause a big problem for you with this medical facility, but they have said that I'm fine with them. I need you to remove this item, or who knows what could happen to you with them.
Right.
So you need to turn this thing around psychologically and put the burden on the collection agency to behave itself. Now, something you can also do in the midst of all this is you challenge the item on your credit report. And at the time you do so, you contact the collection agency, say you've already challenged it, and that they are posting this item, and it is not true because the debt has been taken care of, and that you want it removed in the 30-day window, because there's a 30-day period that you are appealing this item being on your report. Now, the collection agency is foolish if you paid a debt in full to play this kind of game, because if the medical provider had said, we can't accept money, you have to deal with the collection agency, then that would have been what you had to do. But because they accepted your money, you acted in good faith, you paid the bill, you need to be treated that way.
Okay, so I am not, I do not have to pay this interest then.
Well, that's an interesting question, because remember, the original creditor accepted the money from you.
Right.
And because they did, the real beef is between the collection agency and the original creditor, and you should not be put in the middle. So it is not reasonable to expect you to pay that money, because the collection agency may in fact had a written agreement with the medical provider that they are not allowed to accept money from a customer once an item's been turned over to collection. They did anyway, so you should not be the monkey in the middle. Okay?
Yeah, they sent me a letter misquoting California Civil Code, saying that this is why I owe them money, and I actually went online to the California Civil Code, and they completely misrepresented what the code says.
Good for you, and I would send them back a letter to that point. And you sound like you're a guy who's going to stand up for yourself, push the system. You did what was expected of you. You did not pay a bill. You came good on it. You should not now be punished. Thomas is with us. Hello, Thomas.
Hey, Clark. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you. You are considering getting into a sales organization you wanted to run by me.
Yes, it's a multi-level sales organization dealing with cell phone plans, and I wanted to run it by you and see what you think about it.
Tell me how the plan works as best you understand it.
As best I understand it, you have discounted plans a lot cheaper than normal plans that you have right now from the big cell phone companies. And when you represent it and bring in three more people, the three more people then are underneath you. And then after bringing in three, your cell phone service is free. Okay,
so if I understand, the business plan is you sell three other people on being with this cell phone company, then each sell three other people to be on this cell phone company, and on like that.
Right. It's using independent representatives.
Right.
And just using a friend service.
And what does it cost you to get involved in this?
You can go as cheap as $100 all the way up to $500.
Okay. I will tell you that this one is one that I think smells.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why. If you go research the fellow who founded this one, you'll see that you can go all the way back to the 90s when I used to get complaints about him in a former life being involved in telephone stuff, that this guy has been banned from many states of doing business as a multi-level, and that repeatedly has been engaged in activities that were considered to be a pyramid instead of a true sales organization.
Right.
Now, the way you described it to me fits right into that, being what could be classified by a court as an illegal pyramid instead of a multi-level. Here's why. If you think about the math of you making money by recruiting other people to buy the same service that you're on, you're not doing what a real multi-level would do, which is recruiting outsiders who are not part of the business to buy the service.
Right.
And that is a flawed business model that could very easily have the case made that it is an illegal game of chance, because very quickly you would run out of people to play the game.
Right. When I first heard of it, that's why I thought pyramid, but I wanted to run it by you because,
So you had, your initial reaction was that it smelled like an illegal pyramid
Why did it feel that way to you when you first were considering it?
I went to a meeting about it, and, when you see, 3 people, you bring in these 3 people, well, yours is paid for, but I just don't see how that's a business opportunity for them.
Yeah, that's because it's not. So be very wary and careful anytime you get involved in anything that appears to be a multi-level. If you can't find where the real money is earned, selling product or service to strangers, almost certainly it will turn out to be what will collapse on itself as an illegal pyramid.
Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. Our web address, clark.com. When you got a question for me, go clark.com/ask. Nakisha's with us on the Clark Howard Show. How are you, Nakisha?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Great, thank you. How can I be of service?
Well, I was calling Clark to find out if you could possibly help me. I'm single, and I don't have any dependents, and I was wondering if there are any investment strategies that you could recommend to help with deductions to possibly lower a tax bill at tax time.
The most common thing you would do is you do a traditional IRA. Because a traditional IRA, if you did up to the max, which is $5,500, you would dollar for dollar reduce your income by that, and based on your tax rate, you would avoid that tax. It is the easiest way because it's a double benefit. You're saving money for retirement, and you're reducing your tax. A lot of people think, oh, you go buy a home and that mortgage interest is deductible. But the truth is, most people take the standard deduction that you get anyway if you're a renter or a homeowner with a mortgage, and they get no benefit from the fact that they're paying on a mortgage and they have interest that would seem to be deductible but doesn't turn out to be of any value. So here's a question I need to ask you. What level of income are you having right now? Annual income, just kind of in general territory. So I have a sense of whether you should do something like an IRA.
Well, I'm about $25,000 a year. I also have a 401k through Fidelity with my employer, which we contribute to, and I also have student loans that I pay interest on.
All right, your student loans would be, if you're already doing the 401k at work, your student loans would be a higher priority than anything like a Roth, and at your income level, you would be better off putting money towards your student loans. The taxes you're paying for the most part are not income tax at your income. It is tax for Social Security and Medicare.
Okay.
Is the biggest share, and you won't be able to deduct out of that any easy way.
Okay.
So I would, if I were you, just put your efforts into paying down on those student loans. Are yours federal or private?
They're federal.
And what kind of profession are you in, Nakisha?
I do office support in medical field.
Okay. The reason I asked is there are certain things that if you have federal student loans, certain jobs that you get forgiveness of the remaining balance of your federal student loans after 10 years. There are some areas of the medical field that you do, but not a lot of them.
Okay.
But whenever you do change jobs, or if you change what you do at the job you're at, you always want to check to see if you're developing eligible credits towards eliminating the rest of your student loan balance.
Okay. I had one other question too, Clark. It's along the lines of this. What would you recommend as the best withholdings with the W-4 that I should take, and should I have any additional withholding?
No, you don't want to have additional withholding so that you generate a possible refund next year.
Okay.
Where a lot of people have done that through the years so that it's a method of forced savings. The problem with that now is because there's so much tax ID theft going on that let's say you increased your withholding, and so it meant next year you were due a refund of, let's say, $1,500. Well, if somebody has pretended to be you and filed a false return under your name, you'll wait over a year on average to get your refund back.
Okay.
So now where in the past it was common people would do this in order to be able to get a big refund check the following year, and it forced you to, if you're not normally a saver, it made you save. Now that's a really, really tough idea, one I don't recommend. And best of luck to you. Pay on those student loans.
You know, when you're going to buy a car, pricing information is great and necessary. But there's more to doing it than just the price. There's the actual buying experience. If you want to enjoy a better one, you should go to a True Car certified dealer. They're there to help you find the car that you want, and they're also what make True Car unique. With True Car, you can connect with a local certified dealer that you choose, so you can lock in a guaranteed savings off the MSRP and enjoy a totally better buying experience. And by better, they also mean faster. Over 2 million cars have already been sold to True Car users who have visited their True Car certified dealer. And there are over 11,000 True Car certified dealers nationwide, so it's probably pretty easy to find one near you. And check this, for a new car, average True Car users save $3,279 off MSRP. All right, so you're probably wondering, how do I do this? It's easy. Just go to TrueCar.com or, right there on your phone, download the True Car app. You can find the car you want, see the True Car pricing curve, which shows you what other people in your area paid for the same car, and that way you can know you're getting a good price and feel confident. Then you'll get a guaranteed savings certificate from the True Car certified dealer. Go to the dealer, and your guaranteed savings off MSRP will be honored, and you enjoy a quick, easy experience. How's that for car buying? So when you're ready to buy a new car, or even a used one, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app and enjoy the better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so glad you've joined us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less. And don't let anybody ever rip you off. Our web address, clark.com, CLARK.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. Coming up in a half hour. You ever been on a train that has no driver? We talked a lot about autonomous vehicles. I have new news for you about vehicles that are not on a train track, but can move you around nevertheless without a driver. Wait till you hear what's going on. And I want to talk about something right now that has been, I guess, a problem the internet has brought about. There's an expression in medicine that we're all 2 clicks from cancer, meaning that if somebody has any symptoms, they've got soreness somewhere or whatever, and they go to the doctor and the doctor can't figure out what's wrong with what's typically a non-specific symptom. So people get home, they get on the computer or at work, and they start clicking around on the web, and that's where the 2 clicks equals cancer comes from, that no matter what ails you, you can lead your way somewhere on the computer to where you have diagnosed yourself with a cancer. You know, cancer is a scary word. It is a scary disease. It is one that today overwhelmingly may possibly be treatable depending on the version of cancer you get or whatever, where at one time people who were diagnosed with cancer couldn't even say the word, and their loved ones couldn't say the word, because cancer at one time automatically equaled death. Doesn't do that anymore, but it's still a terribly debilitating experience. And it can certainly, in situations, take your life. So that's why this is like a powder keg with you searching for medical information on your own, and suddenly you feel like you found it, and before you know it, you're going to end up freaking yourself out in a frenzy. And people do, according to a study by Pew Research Center, people do go around and search for their own diagnoses. It's different once you have been properly diagnosed for something to go look for what the best treatment options are, what the alternatives are, what kind of studies are going on, investigationals are going on at a time. But overwhelmingly, those 2 clicks when you're trying to self-diagnose are wrong. That you're going to freak yourself out and not have anything terrible wrong with you. Now, there is an effort that I read about in the British newspaper, The Guardian, about an effort by Harvard and the Mayo Clinic together working with big data that they've been able to collect from Google to try to come up with a better process for you when you are online and you're trying to self-diagnose. That the information you'll get will be more credible and that what you're able to determine is information that you may well be able to take rational action with. But until that process turns out not to be promising, but turns out to actually be successful, please, I encourage you to be careful using the internet to diagnose your own symptoms. It's something I've experienced over the years with a friend who's always self-diagnosing, and often she's getting herself upset and worked up over something that is absolutely not real at all. But the internet is almost like reaffirming to her that she has this, that, or the other. Jackie joins us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Clark.
Jackie, good to have you here. You have a question for me about a form of insurance that I use nasty names for.
Yes. I recently refinanced my house about a month ago or less, and I'm getting these things in the mail saying, and they look first like it's from my lender, and then as you read, you see that it's a mortgage insurance for if something happens to you or you die or whatever, it'll pay off of the mortgage. And I was just wondering.
You know, banks have learned nothing from the financial crisis and the fact that you and I were so generous to spend trillions of our dollars to save their hides that the ethics meter has not moved at all. This stuff that you're receiving in these solicitations, your bank holding your mortgage is trying to steal you blind. The mortgage life insurance or mortgage life and disability, depending on which product you're getting a lot of solicitations for, they call behind your and my back croak insurance or croak and choke. Meaning that's how much contempt the banks hold the typical consumer in. Because what they do is they sell you a policy promoting peace of mind, and you ready?
Yeah.
The premiums on it are a minimum 10 times what it would cost you to go buy your own life insurance.
Right.
But even worse, you're paying a premium 10 times the cost to insure which party?
You mean me?
No, you're insuring them.
They're insuring. Oh, so that, right, they get their money.
The benefit goes to the bank, and you're paying the monstrous premiums for a benefit going to them instead of to you.
I know. It's just I thought life insurance is so expensive that I would try. I thought, oh, okay.
No. If you need life insurance on your life to provide for your survivors, level term insurance is the best. You pay a premium either monthly or per year for a massive amount of coverage for like tiny amounts of money.
Well, that's true in the case of people who I had breast cancer. I can't get coverage.
Now, you say that, you'd be surprised because one of the developments in the insurance industry is depending on the severity of your breast cancer and how many years are you a survivor?
I'm just 6 months.
All right, it'll take a while, you're right, for you to become eligible for coverage. But if your breast cancer is it's something that used to be an automatic mark, no, you can't get insurance. But the story now is the survival rate is so high that insurance is once again available. And Jackie, I want to wish you a full and complete recovery and a full and happy life. Trinity's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi.
Hi, Clark. How you doing?
Great, thank you. How can I serve you?
Well, probably could serve me real good because I think I'm giving my wife wrong information, although I'm Jamaican. They are going on a vacation with her girlfriend and the kids without me and any other husbands. It's just them and the kids, but they all have cell phones.
Well, I think you should give her bad advice if you don't get to go on the trip.
Nah, it's a bunch of women and kids. I don't want to go.
Okay.
So, but the question is kind of, I can't answer it, about texting or using the cell phone is going to cost more.
Yeah.
Because of the carrier I have, or should I get one of those other phones and just give to her, pay one of those, you pay now and later?
Yeah, to buy a SIM card for Jamaica. Okay, Here's the story for Jamaica, and it's feast or famine. If you're on T-Mobile, texting is unlimited free and data is unlimited free, while in Jamaica, calling to and from the United States is 20 cents a minute.
Oh.
If you're on anybody else, AT&T, Verizon, or Sprint, it's basically $1 million.
Oh, I got T-Mobile.
So T-Mobile, she's in because she takes a T-Mobile phone with her.
Yeah.
And you go to T-Mobile.com, you'll see there's now 100 and something countries that are eligible for the T-Mobile free texting and free data overseas. And I've used it in country after country. It's really, really great. It's over 120 countries now.
Oh, great. Thanks, Chuck Clark, because
sure.
I've been trying to say yes, but I didn't know if it was the right thing to say.
Now, with T-Mobile, you got to make sure you're on one of their eligible plans for the overseas.
Yeah, I have the plan, all unlimited text and unlimited talk for the whole family.
So I think it's called the Simple Choice Plan, maybe what they call it.
Yes.
So then there's no issue, nothing to worry about.
Oh, okay, cool, Clark. I can tell her Clark said so.
Okay, and if somehow I've messed up and there's a huge bill, I'm not paying it. No, it works beautifully. I'm telling you, I've used it again and again, and I'm just very careful making any calls because the 20 cents a minute bugs me. Erica's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Erica. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for taking my call.
Certainly. You have a question for your husband.
Yes, I do. My husband had a 401k plan with his last employer, but his new employer does not offer the same benefit. So my question is rolling a 401k into a Roth IRA our best option for that investment?
Well, you can't actually do a clean rollover from a 401k to a Roth because then it would make everything that your husband has in his 401k taxable all in 1 year.
Okay.
Because the 401k is pre-tax money. A Roth is post-tax money. So if you roll the money over, it would take your income this year and make it higher by whatever amount is in that 401k. How much is sitting in the old employer 401k?
About $4,000.
Oh, so you would owe tax if you did that probably around $1,200 if you were to convert.
Okay.
And so you'd have to be prepared for that when you did that. And it's basically a double transfer. You move the money from the old employer's 401k into a regular IRA and then reclassify it as a Roth and then report that $4,000 as income.
Okay.
So did I make it sound more complicated than it is?
No, I just never, thought about the tax implications before.
How old is your husband?
He's 24.
It would be very much to his advantage to do that and take the hit on the tax at 24 and then have that money in a position to grow tax-free all through the decades. And then 40 years from now, everything in it can be spent tax-free.
Right.
Now, the only hiccup is, does he have any other IRAs, anything like that, other than this one?
He doesn't, but I have a personal IRA account.
Okay, you're not affected by this. So if he converts his, then the tax is due just on that money.
Okay.
And can I ask approximately how much the two of you earn together?
Right now, probably around 35 or 40.
Oh, great. So the tax would be lower than I said.
Right.
So it would be a doubly smart idea to do that conversion. And at Clark.com, I have my investment guide that I can give you guidance on what are the lowest cost places to open up an IRA, to open up that Roth for him. I don't know if you've seen that, but I would recommend that you look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
All right.
Have a great day, and what a great idea at 24 to get that money converted. Wendy is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Wendy.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you, Wendy. You're taking a big group to the Dominican.
Yes, it's for my 40th birthday, so I wanted to make it very economical for everyone involved.
Well, happy birthday to you, and you don't look a day over 27.
Oh, great. Thank you. I feel the same way.
One thing I'll tell... Go ahead.
No, I don't know whether to go through a travel agent or those online coupons or what.
Well, one thing you don't do, if you're going to have a group beyond 9,
yes,
you never book as a group of 10 or more. You break people up into parties of 9 or less, because one of the crazy things about the travel business is you think that if you're a group, you get a lower price, but groups actually are charged higher prices.
Oh.
So you never want to tell somebody, yippee, we got 14 people. Aren't we going to get a great deal? No, you're charged more than an individual or a couple. So are you looking to buy air and a resort stay in the Dominican all as I think that's definitely when you go to a vacation-oriented travel agent. And a leisure, what they call in the industry a leisure agent, vacation agent, has probably sent so many people to the Dominican Republic, they can even tell you where the beach goes in and out and how much beachfront there is and all that at various resorts.
Okay, so if I tell them 9 people are going to, they'll give me a better...
No, you can tell them, if you're sitting down with a travel agent, you can tell them the full story, that you are, in fact, taking a group of you, and it may be, just give an estimate of how many people. And here's something I'll tell you that eliminates a lot of heartache.
Okay.
Do not lay out money in advance for your friends, because before you're done, you might not be speaking anymore.
Right.
You get
that.
You get people's credit cards where they each pay for their own travel, because if you lay it out for people, unless you're planning just to pay for somebody to go, when somebody hasn't committed their own money to it, they're like, oh, I don't think I'm going to go. I think I need to go get a manicure or something, and they don't show up, and you're out all that money.
Right, that's true.
So you have to have people's financial commitment that they're really showing up to your 40th birthday.
Right, exactly.
Happy birthday to you.
What happens when secrets are revealed? That's the question at the heart of Pivot's Secret Lives of Americans. It's a groundbreaking documentary series that looks at the secrets we all keep, the strength it takes to reveal them to family and friends, and the realization that you are not alone. You can watch an all-new episode of Secret Lives of Americans this Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on Pivot. Secret Lives of Americans deals with some really important subjects, such as religious tolerance, addiction, transgender rights, same-sex marriage, and student debt. What makes this show truly unique is that each person filmed themselves with a handheld camera or phone over the course of several days. You see their lives change firsthand when they make the important decision to open up. Through each person's reveal, one thing becomes clear. It only takes one voice to change the story. Watch an all-new episode of Secret Lives of Americans this Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on Pivot, the television network from Participant Media. To find out how you can watch Pivot, go to pivot.tv.
Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
Welcome to the Clark Howard Show, where you learn ways to keep more of what you make. Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard, on the web, clark.com. My son, when he was younger, was absolutely fascinated by a robotic train that we would take at an airport. No driver. Train was controlled completely by computer and was, as best I've ever heard, flawless. My son now doesn't remember that we used to ride what he called the zebra train, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because it was free to ride, and he loved it so much. And it's so funny as a parent that things that at one time in their lives are so important to kids, later they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But the driverless train is going to be supplanted by driverless buses. You know, one of the issues we face in the states that developed in the automobile era, particularly the South and the West, where all the population growth is in the United States, is having developed in the automobile era, people are spread out, and public transit has been very difficult to get to a point where it can handle any more than typically 3 to 5% of daily rides in a metro area in the South and the West. So having miniature self-driving buses is a potential great bridge for so many people who live in areas where you can't support having a giant rail system of some kind, but some form of moving people together is so necessary to reduce traffic counts and get traffic flowing again. There is a device called the EZ10, which was jointly developed by a Japanese and French company, that is ready actually for use, and at first is being used on in private facilities, like on the grounds of like big universities or big employers, that kind of thing. But before too long, this is the kind of technology that will need to be incorporated into how we plan, how we're going to help people move around in areas where people live so much of their lives just stuck and crammed into traffic. Because if areas are going to continue to thrive and grow, we've got to do things to allow people to move again without being stuck in endless, unpredictable traffic jams, which are so much a part of the life through the southern states and the western states, because it does affect so many phases of quality of life. I think about it happened first in Los Angeles as a leading indicator for what's happened in so much of the rest of the country now, that if people are invited to a social event, a party or whatever, and it's in an area you know you've been through so many traffic jams, that party or events becomes geographically undesirable. And it could be 8 miles away, but you're going to turn it down because it's too much hassle to get to it. And that's isolating. So having the ability for people to connect and get around more easily in these robotic vehicles is definitely going to be the future. And think of this as vehicles that seat somewhere 12 to 25 people is what I'm talking about, on fixed routes, but many, many different routes that a robot can easily drive.
Melissa's with us. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Clark. How are you?
Great. You found something on a treasure hunt.
I did. I was cleaning out some drawers, and I found some old paper stock certificates, not super old, just like 10 years old, and I just don't know what to do with them.
Well, they could be worth some dough.
Yeah, they might be. I kind of Googled the company's names and stuff like that, and I don't think anything crazy. Maybe a few $100. So I mean, that would be nice. And then,
only a few hundred. Now, how did you come upon these? Were these in the name of a loved one, or were these in your name, or?
They're in my name. My dad apparently bought them for me. Is his name on their custodian for me?
And now you're an adult. Am I gathering that your dad is deceased now?
Yes, he passed away.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Really sorry you lost your dad.
Thank you.
Okay, so as far as how you would proceed with these, I have an easy answer and one that's more involved.
Okay.
The easy answer is that if you go to a discount stockbroker, the two biggest with lots of offices are Charles Schwab and Fidelity Investments. They have an online guide where they can take these stock certificates and figure out who the ultimate corporate entity is at this time, because in 10 years' time, there could have been some morphing in who the actual corporate entity is. Mm-hmm. There may have been what are known as stock splits over the last 10 years. That would mean you have more shares than are apparent on those certificates.
Oh.
Because based on the date of the original issue, stocks, what will happen is a stock will go significantly up in price. Mm-hmm. And as it does, it becomes harder and harder for people to buy shares. So they will cut the price of the stock in half and issue people 2 shares for every one they had before.
Okay.
And that's known as a stock split. So if you go to a Charles Schwab or Fidelity Investments office with the certificates, you should make an appointment before you go so you're not sitting there cooling your heels for a long time. Mm-hmm. They will be able to go through each of them, give you an estimated value, and if you open an account with either of them, you can put the stock certificates into what's known as street name, where you give them to them, they store them in your new account, and then once they're there, you can turn around and sell them right away at about $8 a stock. And then they'll just have money for you. Oh, okay.
Are Schwab's and Fidelities like everywhere, or do you just...
They're in big cities, they'll usually have 3 to 5 offices per city. In smaller communities, mid-sized towns, they'll have usually 1 office, and in smaller places, they won't have any.
Okay. If it is worth a certain amount, should I just leave them there forever? Because I'm not going to retire for 30 years.
Well, because they're individual stocks, unless you have some reason, a belief in an individual company, it's kind of like wallpaper, because you really don't know what you have.
Right.
And I'd rather you take the money that you'd get from the proceeds of selling stuff that you really don't know. And if you let's say you end up with $1,000, or you can put $1,000 into something, there's a fund I really like for you to look at a company called Vanguard, called the Star Fund, where in $1,000 investment, you own ownership in thousands of companies instead of owning these certificates in an individual company. Or with Fidelity or Charles Schwab, you can buy something known as an index fund from either of them, where you would take that money and you would own the equivalent of thousands of companies all in one investment. So instead of trying to figure out an individual company, you're owning the whole shebang of the stock market.
Okay.
Shebang is a very technical investment term. And again, I'm really sorry about the loss of your dad. I hope that there's something there that he left for you that turns out to be of significant value. Bethany is with us. How are you doing, Bethany?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. How can I serve you?
So I wanted to call to get your opinion on something.
Okay.
I went to one of these pop-up dental practices in my local area. I was paying cash. I don't have dental insurance. And so they sucked me in with a $39 visit for x-rays and cleaning.
$39?
Yes.
Do you know how cheap that is?
Well, I thought so too, and so I thought, I need to get my teeth cleaned, so I'm going to go.
Wow.
So I made an appointment, and I went, and I'm 33. I've never had a cavity in my life. So I went and got my x-rays, got my cleaning, and the dentist was kind of, I don't know, he was kind of rubbing me the wrong way anyway, but he came up and said, oh, you've got 4 cavities. And I was shocked. I was like, no, and I was all upset and everything. And he goes, well, maybe we can get you in tomorrow to get them filled. Like he was kind of rushing me into another appointment. And I just had this feeling. I just thought, I need to make arrangements for my kids anyway, and so I just said, no, I need to call and make another appointment. Well, I went and got a second opinion from a dentist that I trust, and I had no cavities.
Are you serious?
Dead serious. And they were going to charge me $700 for those 4 cavities.
Wow. So they were doing the $39 thing just as a come-on so they could cheat people by doing unnecessary dental work. Yes. And I was so relieved because I just had that feeling that I just didn't get a good feeling about it. So I put the warning out there to others that, go to these places that, I'm sure not all of them are not trustworthy, but for my case, I would have been out $700 plus they would have drilled my teeth out. Which is never any fun, is it? Well, I've never had one. Well, so let me tell you, as somebody who has a mouth full of fillings, it's no fun at all. Well, I've heard. All right, so Bethany, number one, you have done an enormous favor to your fellow listener simply by making this call today. Number two, do you want to take this to the mat? Because I've got something I'd like you to consider doing. I'll consider it, because, I was going to maybe write the paper and put a warning out, or should I go back and get my $39 back, or what? You tell me. Well, there's 2 paths you can follow. One, the nuclear bomb is to try to challenge this dentist's license. Okay. And you would do that with your state, and we can give you who you would do that with your state, because there's a licensing board for dentists in all the states, and we can give you that information. The opinion of the dentist you trust is very important in this case, and I don't know if that dentist would be willing to fry the dentist who lied and tried to get you to have 4 cavities filled that were non-existent. But the second thing that is the non-nuclear option is to file a complaint against this dentist with his or her peers, with the, you said his, with the dental association in your state. And there's usually a peer review process, and people in a profession really don't like to look bad with their fellow professionals. But this is somebody who so needs to be exposed. Now, we're going to give you those 2 web addresses in a second off the air. Now, one other thing you can do is local TV stations are looking for gotcha kind of stories. Okay. And this is the kind of thing that if any TV station near you has this thing where they run imaging promos for investigative this, that, or the other, this would be a great story for an investigative team where they could send in somebody undercover, find them being told the same kind of stuff you are, and then they expose the dentist, and then you've really done something in your local area that would have real impact. I know. Do you think they would ever be able to come after me, though, personally, since they have all my information? That's a good question. Someone can only come after you if you engage in slander. Now, in this case, you're dealing only with what is apparently medical fact. You have a dentist who said you need essentially emergency dental work, come in tomorrow. You have another dentist who says, I don't know whose mouth they were looking in. You don't have any problem with cavities in your mouth. That's right. As long as you tell only that story and don't say anything about the first dentist's character or anything about the first dentist's mama or anything like that. In other words, you keep it completely to the facts of the situation. There's nothing anybody can hit you with what's known as a slap. That's where you get hit with a suit where they try to quiet you by threatening you with a slander act. Okay. So hang on just a second. We're going to give you that contact information. You sound really motivated. If you'll follow any and all of these steps, you may make a real difference. And what a nice warning you've given to your fellow listener to be careful. If somebody tells you you've got a serious problem and need to spend big money, what you actually need to do is go seek a second opinion.
Follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. our web address, clark.com. When you got a question for me, go clark.com/ask.
And is it Biren? Is that how I say your name?
Yes, Biren.
Biren, welcome to the Clark Howard Show. How may I serve you?
You know, I have one question for mutual fund and retirement. Let's say if I do retirement in mutual fund over 20 years and something goes wrong when I retire, at the time of my retirement, that mutual fund goes under. What happens to my money? I know that money market is protected by FDIC up to $100,000, but what about stock mutual fund?
That is a great question. Each stock and bond mutual fund has its own board of directors, and the value of that fund, let's say the parent company goes bust that owns that mutual fund. The failure of the parent company does not affect the value of the mutual fund that you would own, because the mutual fund is strictly based on the value of the holdings in it. So if, let's say you've owned this thing for 20 years, parent company goes away, but there's still this mutual fund that has all these holdings, what would likely happen, and what's happened in the past, is that fund would end up being managed by another company. But your money in your account is absolutely safe. When there was the failure of the reserve family of funds, the money market funds, that failure was based on the fact that money market funds are supposed to and are designed to maintain a $1 share price. The failure was that they did not maintain the $1 share price, and people have only gotten back 90-some-odd cents on each dollar. But with a mutual fund, the value is set each day at market close for the value of what's in that fund. So a stock mutual fund or bond mutual fund goes up or down, and regardless of what happens with the parent company, that would stay in place and your money would be completely secure.
But who will do all the paperwork?
What would happen is that the industry itself would sort out who would end up operating those funds. It is not at all uncommon for a company that organizes and originally sets up a mutual fund to itself eventually go out of business, and then that mutual fund ends up either being merged into another or is operated by another family of funds. So it's not anything you should, with all the things we could lose sleep over at night, this is one, Biren, you can relax about.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't worry about it at all.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP news headlines from Podcast One right after this. When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico has been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about savings, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson. Forget the pressure, forget the hype. Simone Biles is immune to all of it. Dynamic on the vault, effortless on the beam, jaw-dropping on the floor, brilliant all over. And now, finally, an Olympic champion. The 19-year-old American soared to the all-around title today, putting the gap between herself and the rest of the world on full display under the Olympic spotlight in Rio.
Everything was going through my head, but mainly it was just like I had finally done it, and whenever that hits you, you can't really stop the emotions that are going to happen. So I was just very proud.
Biles became the fourth straight American woman to win the all-around title and fifth overall, while cementing her reputation as the greatest gymnast of her generation and perhaps ever. Her victory was never in doubt, and she burst into tears when her long journey to this moment ended this afternoon when her final total was posted. AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson.